All right, so are you ready to dive into some serious Elvis history?
Always ready for some Elvis.
Okay, cool, me too.
Oh,
I'm really fascinated by this chapter we're looking at today.
oh yeah.
This later years and legacy thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty intense. Like, we're gonna get into all the Vegas stuff
Yeah, the spectacle,
and all his personal struggles.
the ups and downs.
Yeah, exactly. And Elvis is like, he's more than just music, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's a whole cultural phenomenon.
Right. So how about we just jump right into it?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. So this chapter, like right off the bat, it talks about Elvis moving to Vegas in 1970.
Yeah, that was a huge shift.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
And like he sets up shop at the International Hotel.
Like the king he was.
Right. And it wasn't just a gig, it was like this full-blown residency.
2 shows a night.
Oh, yeah. 2 shows a night. Can you imagine?
This has been wild.
I know, right? And like the whole thing was just over the top.
Full orchestra backup singers.
Yeah, and the jumpsuits. Oh my God, the jumpsuits.
So iconic.
Right. Talk about larger than life.
He was a complete reinvention.
It really was.
Before Vegas, he was the rebel, the leather jacket, the hip shaking.
Right, but then he becomes this showman.
Yeah, like he's almost playing a character, the Vegas Elvis.
Right. And the chapter mentions that critics were kind of divided on this whole Vegas thing.
Yeah. Some loved it, some hated it.
Yeah. Some thought it was like this natural evolution.
Like he was just embracing the spectacle of it all.
Right, exactly. But then others thought he'd lost that raw energy that made him Elvis.
Yeah, they missed the rebel.
Yeah, I get that. But you know what? Crowds went wild for it.
Sold out shows every night.
I know. It's crazy. Like, no matter what the critics said, people loved it.
People wanted to see the spectacle, the
Yeah.
king in all his glory.
Right, and he gave it to them. I mean, 2 shows a night. That's intense.
Must have taken a toll.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, all that energy, all that performing. Was there a darker side to this whole Vegas era?
That's where things get interesting. The chapter kind of hints at some of the challenges he was facing behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Like his health was starting to decline.
Right. They mentioned weight fluctuations, too.
Yeah, and a growing dependence on prescription meds.
Oh, wow. Like maybe the pressure of maintaining that Elvis image was just too much.
Yeah, you can imagine.
Mm.
It's got to be tough to live up to those expectations night after night.
Right. And then there was the divorce from Priscilla in 73.
Yeah, it must have been tough.
And like, even though he was surrounded by people at Graceland.
It seems like he was pretty isolated.
Yeah, that's what the chapter suggests. Like he was struggling on a personal level.
Yeah, and money problems too, apparently.
Really?
That lavish lifestyle doesn't come cheap.
No, it doesn't. So we've got like declining health, possible addiction, a divorce, financial troubles. Like how much of that was going on during those Vegas years?
I think it's safe to say it wasn't all glitz and glamour.
No, definitely not. So with all this going on, he decides to hit the road.
And not just a little tour. We're talking over 1,100 concerts between 69 and 77.
Whoa, that's a lot.
It's insane. Like, was he trying to escape his problems or what?
Right. Was it dedication to his fans or something else?
The chapter mentions that some of his performances started getting a little erratic.
Really?
Yeah, like fans and critics were starting to get concerned.
Oh, man.
Like, was he burning the candle at both ends? Pushed himself too hard?
It makes you wonder.
It really does. And then there's the Aloha from Hawaii concert in 73.
Oh, yeah. The global broadcast.
The one that reached like 1.5 billion viewers.
It was huge.
A massive success.
But like knowing what we know now about his personal struggles.
It makes you think about what it took to pull off something that big.
Yeah. Was it a triumphant moment or was it a sign that things were really starting to unravel?
It's hard to say. It could have been both.
Yeah. A turning point, maybe.
Possibly.
Right.
Like the effort to maintain that image was just becoming too much.
Yeah. And that kind of leads us to August 16th, 1977.
The date that'll forever be linked to Elvis.
The day the music died.
42 years old. It's hard to believe.
I know. Officially a heart attack.
But we know there were other factors.
Yeah, the health problems, the medications, all the pressure he was under.
And the world just stopped.
Like everything just paused.
80,000 people lined the streets for his funeral.
80,000.
Wow. It was unprecedented. President Carter even issued a statement.
Really?
Yeah, he said Elvis had a profound impact on American culture.
Wow. And radio stations played his music nonstop.
It was like everyone was in mourning.
Yeah, it was like the end of an era.
And it solidified his status as a legend.
Right. Like in death, he became even bigger than he was in life.
It's incredible to think about.
I mean, it's crazy to think about how much Elvis's influence is still felt today.
It really is.
Yes.
It's like he's frozen in time, this icon that never fades.
Right. And it's more than just the music, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This chapter dives into that. Like how he impacted culture in so many ways.
Yeah, like he basically invented rock and roll.
Well, not single-handedly, but he was a pioneer for sure.
Right. He took all these different influences.
Country blues gospel.
Yeah, and mashed them all together.
And boom, you've got rockabilly.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the sound, it was the attitude.
The energy, the way he moved.
Oh, yeah. He was like a force of nature on stage.
No one had ever seen anything like it.
And his voice, man,
Yeah,
that voice.
so powerful.
It could be tender and soulful.
And then, like, bam, he'd built out a rocker.
I know. It's amazing. And it's no wonder he inspired so many other artists.
The Beatles, Bruce Springsteen, countless others.
Right. They all owe a debt to Elvis.
I mean, he won 3 Grammys.
And he got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, too.
And get this, he's the best-selling solo artist in history.
That's just mind-blowing.
It really is.
But yeah, like you said, it's not just about the music.
To change the whole game.
Totally, like how performers engage with their audience.
Before Elvis, it was all pretty stiff and formal.
Right.
But he brought this raw energy, this physicality.
Yeah, he was like a lightning bolt.
And it changed everything.
And his look, too.
Oh, yeah.
The pompadour, the
Yeah.
jumpsuits.
So iconic.
Right. He basically defined cool for a whole generation.
He pushed boundaries, challenged norms.
Yeah, we got to talk about the racial barriers he broke down.
Absolutely.
I mean, embracing Black musical styles back then,
It was a huge statement.
especially in the segregated South.
He faced some backlash for it,
I bet.
but he genuinely loved the music,
And he helped introduce it to a much wider audience.
which is huge.
Yeah, it's a big part of his legacy.
Speaking of legacy, we got to talk about Graceland.
Oh, yeah.
After he died, it became like a pilgrimage site for fans.
It's crazy how many people visit it every year.
It's a National Historic Landmark.
It is.
And get this, it's the second most visited private home in America.
No way.
Yeah, it's wild.
It just goes to show how much he's still loved and admired.
It's amazing how his music and his persona continue to resonate with people even today.
Right? Like he's
Donald-
become this timeless icon.
And Graceland is like a museum now,
Yeah, it's a whole experience.
preserving his legacy for future generations.
It is not just a museum, it's a business, too.
Oh yeah, the Elvis estate still makes millions every year
I know, it's crazy.
from licensing merchandise, all sorts of ventures.
Yeah, Graceland is a big part of that.
It's like his influence just keeps growing.
It's true. You see his image and music everywhere.
Movies, documentaries, even academic studies.
He's become this pop culture phenomenon.
As like Andy Warhol said, everyone's going to be famous for 15 minutes.
Right.
But Elvis's 15 minutes seem to have lasted a lifetime and beyond.
It's true. And I think it's really interesting how he managed to stay relevant through all the changes in music and culture.
Yeah, he went from this rebel in the 50s to a Vegas icon in the 70s.
And somehow he always kept that star power.
It's incredible.
And he's still racking up the accolades.
Like he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 86.
Right?
Got the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award.
And in 2018,
He was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
it's amazing. All the stamps and commemorative items, too.
The King's reign continues.
Okay, so like after all this talk about his legacy, I gotta ask, what do you think Elvis would be doing if he were still around today?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Like, would he be on TikTok?
Right? Would there be like Elvis dance challenges?
Oh, man, I can totally see that happen.
And like imagine him collaborating with some of today's artists.
Right. Like, could you imagine Elvis and like Bruno Mars?
Oh my God.
Or like a duet with Adele?
Stop it. My head's gonna explode.
It's mind-blowing.
It really is. Like, do you think he'd still be performing?
I mean, the guy loved the stage.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he was still rocking those jumpsuits.
Oh my God. Can you imagine him in like a holographic jumpsuit?
Stop. I can't even.
Right.
But seriously, though, it's fascinating to think about how his music and style would have evolved.
Totally.
Like, would he have gone full-on synth pop in the 80s?
Right. Or would he have stayed true to his roots?
Who knows? But it's fun to imagine.
It really is. You know, something I've been thinking about is like
Yeah.
all the pressure on celebrities these days.
Oh, yeah, it's relentless.
Right? Like with social media and everything.
The 24/7 news cycle.
Exactly.
It's got to be tough.
I mean, how do you think Elvis would handle all that scrutiny?
That's a tough one to answer.
Right. Like he was already dealing with a lot back then.
Yeah. And the world was a different place.
Totally. But it does make you think about like the human side of fame, you know?
Absolutely.
Like even icons have their struggles.
No one's immune to pressure and anxiety.
Right. It's a good reminder that we're all human.
It is. And I think it makes Elvis's story even more relatable.
Totally. But one thing's for sure.
What's that?
His music has stood the test of time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people are still listening to Elvis today.
All over the world.
Right? Like, his songs are on the radio, streaming services everywhere.
They're in movies, TV shows.
Exactly. Like, his music is everywhere. And it's not just us old folks listening to it.
No way.
New generations are discovering Elvis all the time.
It's amazing how his music keeps finding new audiences.
It really is. Like, there's something timeless about it.
Totally. The energy, the passion, the raw emotion.
It just connects with people.
On a deeper level.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it so special.
Agreed.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the highs and lows of his later years.
To the complexities of his personality.
And the lasting impact he's had on music and culture.
Elvis was one of a kind.
He really was. So, like, after all this, what stands out to you the most about Elvis?
You know, for me, it's just the sheer range of his influence. Like, it's not just the music.
Right.
It's how he changed fashion stage presence, our whole attitude towards celebrity.
Right. Like, he was more than just the singer.
He was a cultural force.
That's a good way to put it. And for me, I think it's the duality of his story.
Yeah.
Like, he achieved incredible success.
Global icon.
Right. But he also struggled with personal demons and faced immense pressure.
It's a reminder that even icons are human.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes his story so fascinating.
Agreed.
Well, we've only scratched the surface of Elvis's story today.
That's for sure.
But this deep dive has given us a glimpse into the man behind the myth.
The king who was both larger than life.
And all too human.
That's Elvis.
So as we wrap up our Elvis deep dive, we want to leave you with this.
What's that?
What's your favorite Elvis song? The one that makes you want to get up and dance.
Or takes you back to a special memory.
Hold that song in your heart and remember, as Elvis himself would say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.